Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with 7 things you need to know while you are playing through Greedfall. You can consider this a tips for beginners, but I treat Greedfall as an evolving lesson. Some things on this list I wish I knew at the very beginning, some things I learned along the way, and I properly adjusted. So hopefully this video helps you out as you dive into Greedfall. I thought this video would be good to make because a lot of my audience was sort of waiting for reviews to come out and my impressions, and now that they're out and maybe they made the jump, you guys want to know what's the best way to get started. So we're going to go through 7 things on a list that I made as I've played about 15 hours now of the game. So let's get started. Number 1, intuition is key. This is actually a stat you want to get. It provides contextual dialogue options and is one of the most rewarding early investments you can make. It provides more options in conversation, and that means more outcomes for quests. Sometimes in the early game, you're either going to have to use your charisma, which will be very low, or you're going to have to pay, and your wallet's going to be very thin because the game's just starting out. So the game sort of tries to put you in a vice early on, but if you have intuition, there are a couple of quests that you can get out of without having to engage in combat. You can talk your way out of it, and it's really good because you don't have to sacrifice anything for it. I think this is great, and it's something that you need to get early on. It's actually the first one that I maxed out completely at tier 3 because I want access to all the intuition options. It's been insanely helpful, and this was the best first option that you could select for your character. Number 2, build hybrid, not one path. The combat mechanics are actually built for that because R1 on the PS4 is to change weapons. So Spiders is absolutely telling you right off the bat, play with 2 different types of play styles. One ranged, one close up would be my suggestion. And investigate that skill tree while building. Just because those skills are blacked out and you don't have access to them yet, does not mean that you can't preview them and start thinking about how you want to build. Check out to see what each is worth. Some are worth 2 points, some are worth 1 point. And you want to have that planned out because when you're doing this hybrid build, you're trying to balance, for example, me, a one-handed mace, and magic rings, and having them do equal damage. Now you can go all in on one tree, but what's going to happen is, let's say you go all in on magic, when your mana is out, you better hope you have a power potion, because if you don't, you cannot continue to attack. So you need something that allows you to just go straight in there and go after the enemy. Melee attacks don't have a stamina bar or anything, so that's why it's a safe option, sort of a backup to have when your magic runs out. That would be my suggestion. You don't have to use maces. You can, for example, use one-handed blades. You can use firearms if you want. The game is very flexible, but my suggestion, although I like to go down one specific path, is to build hybrid when it comes to the combat in this game. Speaking of building, number 3 is build for skills. Some equipment you craft will give you talents that you would otherwise have to spend precious points on. Now, considering that talent points come very rarely in the leveling up process, like multiple levels apart, and reasonably so because it gives you access to a lot of new equipment and ways to explore the levels and complete quests, this would be something that's best to keep a close eye on. Usually it's for the strap across your chest armor. You can add something that will give you +1 to stuff like science, lockpicking, vigor, etc. But it's good to craft and actually keep in your inventory given certain gameplay scenarios. Now, this won't get you across the entire game where you have access to absolutely everything, but for me, having +1 lockpicking gives me access to a couple of more chests, a little bit of bonus loot, and it helps overall in the long run. Now, the cost to make these is just normal materials alongside a precious ore or gems such as obsidian, rubies, and so on. These aren't really too easy to come across. I only have 3 obsidian and 1 ruby at this point in the game. So that's as I explore every corner of the map. I've fought 3 incredibly tough bosses, so they aren't extremely plentiful. So build smart when you are making them. Don't just assume that you can get another one and make it later with better armor. You want to make sure when you invest in it that you're doing it at the right time. I would just recommend doing what I do with Divinity Original Sin: craft the item or have the item that gives you those bonuses to your skills and swap them in when need be. There's nothing wrong with that, and it would help an immense amount because then you can count on that while you're building your character. Maybe now you don't need to do lock picking and you can invest another talent point in alchemy. It's sort of how it works, so consider the build for skills. Number 4 is keep your chest armor, because these determine your disguise. Be wary of the factions that they introduce early on in the game when they're telling you about the disguise system, and save one of each as you progress through the game, because what this allows you to do is get behind enemy lines, see what they're up to, complete quests in different ways. It's just like what I was mentioning earlier with building for skills. Have something with +1 lockpicking, have something with +1 alchemy. have something in this case on your chest for all the different factions, whether it's the Nauts, the Taleme, the Bridge Alliance. It does not matter. Have a disguise for each, because you never know who you're going to end up allying with, who you're going to end up going against, who you're going to have to get behind, and this type of stuff really helps. So keep an eye on those little icons that are on the bottom right of the item description. They're very tiny. I would like for them to be a little bit bigger, but anyway, it is distinguishable enough to just go, okay, that one's different. Make sure you have a multiple amount of different ones for those so that you can always get into any faction you want to. Number 5, this one's obvious. Skulls are bad. You want to avoid skulls. But here's the thing. When you see skulls, that doesn't mean you can't fight them. The thing is, in this game, and I like how it's balanced, you do normal damage to them, and they do have a little bit more health, but it's absolutely doable to take on enemies above your level. However, they're going to do a lot more damage to you, and that's why the skulls are there. I just want to make sure you guys know that you can actually take on enemies if they have skulls above their heads. We saw that in my gameplay video I uploaded a couple days ago. You're also seeing it right here that I'm doing just fine taking these enemies on. However, let's say you're not comfortable with that. One thing that the game doesn't really emphasize after the opening area, stealth is an option. Stealth is something you can do if you don't want to fight, if you want to get to that camp real quick and then pop back into the action. Stealth is something you can do. The AI vision cones aren't incredible in this game. Use it to your advantage, stealth your way around. It'll help you in the long run. Number 6, here's how you can get a little bit more gold. Now, I'm working on how to get rich in this game like I do in every RPG I play. And this one's a little tough, actually, I'm not going to lie, because the economy is very, very well balanced, which I have to give a tip of the cap to spiders for that, because that's hard to do in an RPG. But here are a couple of tips. Number 1, hunt wildlife. It's a little more gold, just a smidge. You'll get magnificent feathers, which are 4 gold each, but hey, you kill 4 birds on the way to a quest, all of a sudden you've got yourself 16 more gold, and you can do a little bit with that, maybe a new potion or something in your pocket. Also, more gold is held in the contracts, which are optional side tasks that are discovered on mission boards. They will be labeled as question marks on your map, so you can seek those out, and when you do so and complete them, you will be rewarded with a lot of gold. And this is going to be helpful because a lot of great weapons and armor can be looted, but they're also available at vendors. And I've actually used vendors quite a bit in Greedfall compared to a lot of other RPGs. Normally I'm just crafting everything on my own. So I've been very pleasantly surprised by that, and that's why I'm very happy that the economy's balanced, because I have had trouble breaking in and getting really rich really fast, which I like. Number 7, skill altars. Discover what those dang question marks are. If you could not tell by the last one where I was talking about contracts, now I'm talking about skill altars. When you open up the map, you'll see a bunch of locations that are marked with question marks. Go to them, find out what they are. It will always be worth your time for your character. Usually it's a camp, a skill altar, a contract board, maybe even a town, but it's always something worth your time. But in the terms of skill altars, what they do is you activate them and they give you 1 skill point. Right then and there, the stuff I was talking about where you're building hybrid, you get a point to build towards that stuff. So these are the willy-nilly points you can just sling into your character and go, oh, whatever, yeah, sure, why not? Let's put this here. Because these are the ones that are not earned, you just discover them. It makes life insanely easy. So be sure to take advantage of these skill altars, because that will make the hybrid build a little easier to balance. Because when you're leveling up, we'll say like every just shy of an hour through questing and combat, those choices become a lot more heavier for your character. But if you're balancing that out with a skill altar here or there, trust me, they're not super frequent, not too bad of a deal for your character, and it allows a little more balance. But anyway, those are 7 tips for those of you who are starting off Greedfall, just things that I feel you need to know before you hop into this. I think this list would be very helpful if I knew it before I started playing, because I did not intentionally want to build hybrid. I was a little iffy on intuition, but now I know for sure that is absolutely the best starter that you can choose. Building for skills is something I discovered right in the beginning of my playthrough, and it's helped me immensely. And also those disguises, man, have them on hand. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, just some tips from me to you. How are you enjoying Greedfall? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm dying to hear from you. Oh, and also, I could not possibly forget to ask of all of you, while you are down in the comments, share some tips there, because I'm personally still learning the game. I'd love to know every secret as I explore every nook and cranny of the environment. I'm sure there's something that maybe you guys know that's helped you along in your playthrough that I didn't mention in this video, and we can make this a collaborative effort. So, like I just wanted to say, fire away in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys got going on. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.